A lot of what we've been looking at over the last couple of weeks has officially come into fruition. Many of the metrics that we had been seeking out to see on the extreme ends have now fired off. So the question is this the low? Is the bottom in? Or are we going to be going down low? That's what we're going to attempt to discuss in today's show. Make sure you smash the like button, hit the bell notification, and subscribe to the channel. There's really going to be two cohorts of different people that I'm speaking to today. One is going to be those who are aggressive and they want to buy the bottom, the exact bottom. And then the second cohort is probably those who are waiting for confirmation that the low is actually in, which would mean that you're buying a little bit higher, but it gives you insurance. And I guess we can throw in a third cohort, and those are the people that are just wrecked. Numb inside, right? Go and vote over there. Do you think the bottom is in? Local low, then lower, major low, then recovery to all-time highs, or no, we're going lower very soon, and we're just going to continue to nuke. And then we have the numb inside people. So if you are in the third cohort, you need to click that button over there. Doesn't matter which cohort you're in, you need to smash the like button. So please make sure you go and give the video a thumbs up over there. Let's get going straight into the show content. You are getting a bit of a bounce, quite a big bounce actually from Asta. Wow, 20% up. But remember this, right? Don't be one of those up only people if price has already gone down 60, 70, 80%. The 5 to 10% pumps are, of course, given. They are going to take place. That doesn't mean that the bottom is in. We will discuss that. There is a case to be made that maybe this is where the low will be found. I'll show you again for the two cohorts of people what you want to do if you wanted to bid aggressively at the low, or the second cohort, what you're going to be looking for, the profile of exactly what you want to see for confirmation that the low is in. I am in the second camp. I'm waiting for rather better confirmation because I don't want to lose money. It's as simple as that. I don't care about buying the exact low of the wick. I just don't want to lose any money, and I want to catch a momentum move, and I'll show you what that looks like if you want to catch that momentum move, right? So it's been a difficult market indeed. Some of the hopium cases being built around the government shutdown, at least ending the shutdown. That could be one potential catalyst that could reverse things, as well as a bunch of other metrics that we were looking at on this chart over here, of which we saw a lot of that play out yesterday. So we'll review all of that. We'll put it all together, and then you can make your own decision. So we've now seen the government shutdown entering day number 35, right? Making it the longest in history. So we'll see maybe if you get the announcement that the shutdown has come to its end, some sort of resolution around the trade wars. These have been some of the catalysts that at least we speculate may come into motion, which could reverse price. So we want to line things up, right? We line things up with the underlying metrics that we've been trading on the Whale Trades website, things like the negative skew, things like the 7-day daily exchange volume, things like the mass liquidations, which you now saw pick up again, over 2 billion worth of liquidations. I think 1.5 is from the long side. And then the other thing that we had been looking at is major fear re-entering into the market. And then we line that up with the technicals on TradingView hitting certain key levels, which we've now done. Now, the only piece of the puzzle that's really missing over here is the announcement that the government shutdown has come to its end, of which prediction markets are speculating somewhere around mid-November. But that doesn't mean that the technicals can't find their bottom now, right? The technicals could potentially find their bottom now, and then the announcement will just be the fuel to confirm some sort of a high low after the low's already in and continue price higher. So this has kind of been the bigger trade plan that we've been looking at, but there is still a lot of selling. There's a lot of underlying pressure within the market, also in the traditional sense, and one of which is Mara, right? If you have a look over here, they've been actively selling a whole lot of Bitcoin, right? This is a mining company that was buying a lot of Bitcoin, and they're just absolutely dumping Bitcoin over there. That's one thing. We also have the canary in the coal mine, which has been MicroStrategy. And since taking that trade, the original trade, we're only targeting a 1 to 3 risk to reward ratio, which would therefore be coming into the potential zone. But we went short on MicroStrategy, and it's already played out about 19% over there, and it's just not looking good. I said that I'm not going to be taking profits over here. You can take 1/3 off the table if you want to pay yourself, but I prefer to leave this for a longer trade. I think that this can come down at least 55%. And I'm willing to be stopped out. If we do start to bounce over here on MicroStrategy, I might shave a little bit. The risk has been eliminated. There's no chance of loss over here. We moved the stops to break even on that trade. So continuing to hold that. And I thought one interesting post over here was from Willie Woo, who's an on-chain analyst. He was very big in 2017 within those cycles. Some of you may know him. He says MicroStrategy liquidation in the next bear market. He doubts that will happen, but nevertheless, he has their debt, the date, and when the debt is due, and the MicroStrategy stock needs to hit a certain price or exceed that to prevent partial liquidation of their treasury to pay back the debt. Okay, so the equivalent BTC price has been written over there, and the earliest date is going to be in September, the 15th of September 2027, and Bitcoin would need to be at $91,500 or more. Otherwise, he risks having to liquidate some. So there's quite big numbers over here. I'm sure that some of these can probably adjust slightly over time. But nevertheless, those are the numbers right now. So you can make your long-term decisions based on what you think price will be by those dates, right? So either way, MicroStrategy under pressure. I guess if they did have to start to liquidate some Bitcoin, the stock price is going to get obliterated even further. So it will be interesting indeed. So if you're interested in the traditional markets, by the way, guys, we have been trading those actively, gold, silver, everything, all in the Whale Room Discord. Farouk doing a great job over here, hitting the 4th take profit off of another sniped entry on gold. Look at that entry, absolutely beautiful. So good stuff over there for the Whale Room members and the Whale Room traders. A lot of the market did go down yesterday. This was regarding some of the data that came out. I think it was the jobs numbers that came out yesterday. So the 4th, let's just quickly have a look over here. So a lot of the jobs openings negative for the market taking a bit of a dump. And that is not only for Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin just moved at a high rate towards the downside. We saw everything, Dow Jones come down, S&P 500 come down, but that has now come back into key support. So still going to maintain the long exposure over here on this particular trade. I think this is, generally speaking, the bounce area, which could build a bit of a case for Bitcoin also bouncing from some of these key levels. So let's get into that and attempt to answer that question. Is the worst over? Is the worst over? Where are we at? Are we going to bounce from here? What's happening, right? Well, we saw the total liquidations pick up massively, 36% more than what we had the previous day. The skew we got good enough. Yesterday, I think it was about 5.6%. We said we look for 6% or more on the short side, meaning more shorts dominating the market, which could create an opportunity for them to either cover their shorts or even to create a short squeeze. I wouldn't want to use the word short squeeze. Let's rather just label it covering their shorts, taking a little bit of profits, which causes a bit of a bounce. Fear and greed now at 23. Yesterday we hit 21, which was the worst that we've seen in a long time. That was the other thing we had been looking at. We looked at the 24-hour liquidations, now hitting 1.77 billion, of which 1.36 billion were from the long side. So a tick in the box of exactly what we planned. The other thing we looked at is the daily exchange volume, which is still curling up. Good sign, right? Opportunity over here for bulls to turn a corner. We had the ETF outflows. I think that we've seen enough outflows now on a weekly scale. And now all that we're waiting for is that government shutdown and some sort of resolution to the trade wars. And then all boxes are ticked for a potential bounce. This is your monthly scale, which does look bad when you look and consider the selling pressure and the wicks that have occurred over here. But you're coming into massive monthly demand. So at the end of the day, there will be a big bounce out of that zone. And you have to address as well that, you know, if we don't bounce very soon, I would say if we don't bounce out this week and start to make some sort of a recovery, you have to open up the possibility that the top is in, because distribution in the market, meaning selling, and for sellers to take control, can take time. This is a different scenario to what we're trying to address with is the low in now for this as a local bottom where we can at least play the upside for a bounce, right? Different story to the time frame that I'm talking about now, macro distribution. Bitcoin has now performed worse than US treasuries in 2025. This is not good. Even crypto people are laughing at that, right? Even 𝗫𝗄𝗫𝗀 over there is laughing at that. So, and then always you have those guys that say zoom out. When in doubt, zoom out. Just go to calculate from 2010. I mean, come on, the inception of Bitcoin. This is a potential sign of distribution and could signal the end of the cycle. Plus, we met the timing cycle end at the exact point where we should be going parabolic. Look at 2017, look at 2021. That's orange and then green. Which way are we going? We're going down, right? We're going down. We are distributing. So therefore, even if this is a local low, which we could make the argument that you could bounce out of here if it leads into a lower high, don't forget and lose sight of these. There could be distribution after that point in time. Now, one of these small adjustments that I made was relating to the RSI. The RSI is at a very critical level, right? You can focus on all of these major corrections. The RSI bobbed and weaved around that 44 region and then quickly reclaimed the 50, which is what we want to see in order to suggest that the bulls are back and in control. We haven't got the weekly close, which means if you get a strong reaction, you wouldn't have broken this trend line just yet. For that weekly RSI, the MACDs look terrible. They're all coming down quite aggressively. Weekly is down, 2 weekly is down. The 3 week as well, I believe, has crossed towards the downside. So these are very, very, very bad signs. Let's just let that load up. There we go. 3 weekly has crossed towards the downside. Monthly hasn't crossed yet, but as you can see, if we're anywhere around here or lower, it is going to cross. The monthly will cross, and at which point you have to say that probably the top is in. So therefore, it means that bulls have to strike back, and they have to strike back now. Time is not their friend. Time is against them. And the one adjustment that I made over here, which I'll just highlight, is all related to this RSI. And every time the RSI has come into those low levels, which are highlighted in pink over here, has been your corrective phases where a little bit of reaccumulation takes place and bulls take back control. And this just showcases why it has to happen very quickly. Now, one thing we're looking at is this was where we're initially counting our major top on. And the reason why is because we had volume backing it at that point in time. We had a little bit of euphoria coming into the market. The market was starting to get greedy on the fear and greed index, whereas this time was different. So what we said back then is that, you know, each of these major corrections, which you've lined up with the RSI, if you're still in a bull run, the theory would be that it should get shorter and shorter and shorter, right? So 30 bars, 8 bars, 9 bars, 5 bars, and then we said this is getting a little bit long. But I made one adjustment, and this is purely just giving bulls the benefit of the doubt. We said, well, the true top was actually that candle. Sentiment-wise, things were a little bit different, and therefore the count still suggests that you are in a shorter term corrective phase, because you put in the all-time high on that candle. That's where Bitcoin rallied up to just over 126,000, and you started to come down. So therefore, we still are within that environment: 30 bars, 8 bars, 9 bars, 5 bars, 4 bars. So if you're still in a bull market, the corrections should become shorter and shorter, and bulls should take back control much quicker. Now, I still think this is really, really, you know, clutching at straws, because this entire phase has been corrective, in my opinion, even though you made a high, but we're trying to give you a little bit of hopium, right? I told you, I'm trying to help the bulls out over here and give them real benefit of the doubt, which simply just means they must run price up now this week, and all lines up with this, with every little metric that we're looking at over here, with the government shutdown, which could come next week. At least the prediction market suggests that the government shutdown should end, and it should open up again from next week. And if that does happen, all we need to see is bulls closing above $100,000, which means you probably want to see that as the wick low, which means that this weekly close is absolutely vitally important. If you do obviously come low and you start to close under $100,000, the probabilities that bulls will take back control diminishes massively, and the probability that the top is in and we're moving into a bear market increases massively, which is in alignment with the timing cycles, suggesting that we have reached our endpoint. So at the end of the day, I think that the answer is still very clear, that your risk to reward for the upside is very, very, very low. Because let's say even if you do rally out of here, you're talking about a realistic, I don't do the unrealistic numbers, $400,000, $500,000 Bitcoin is ridiculous. We talk about the realistic numbers. It's not impossible, by the way, but we would always jump back on as a trend trader should you get to 400,000, 500,000, 600,000. We're of course not going to, sit on our hands and miss that. I'm just saying that the risk to reward realistically is that Bitcoin goes to 135, 145 within that region, and you're taking on a lot of risk, right? Your risk to reward ratio, if this collapses down to 50K, you've halved your asset value, whereas your upside potential is like 40, 45%. So your percentage upside is less than what your percentage downside risk is if this does collapse. So be aware of that, right? Make your own decisions. This is not financial advice. You must do your own thing. I'm simply just outlining what the chart suggests. Now, I am going to throw you some hopium nuggets. There's a few of them. as we've spoken about, all the metrics, all the things that we wanted on this platform has ticked, right? It happened. It all played out perfectly. Now, we're talking about the corrective phase of potentially bouncing from the same RSI level as before. 50 EMA on the weekly time frame was tagged, and we're holding above it. Key psychological number, we back above it, $100,000. 50% fib retracement level taken from this low to this high, we back above it. Hopium case, right? It's all there on the table. Bull moon tagged, right? We have the bull moon. The bull moon has arrived. And I saw this is a special bull moon, right? It's not just any bull moon. This is a very special one that you should hold dear to your hearts if you're a bull. And the reason why comes from this post over here. Some sort of a market astrologer. He says over here, have a look at this. Anyone else notice a pattern? Each major correction hit the RMA on the weekly. Okay? So he says that each major correction also hit the 50% fib. Each major correction also had a lunar cycle change within 24 hours of the bottom. And apparently this is the harvest moon. So begin harvesting. Harvest those coins, guys. It's harvest time. The largest and the brightest moon of the year. Very interesting. Very, very interesting stuff. Let me know if you like that. If you do like it, smash the like button. So jokes aside, we have things lining up. We have these metrics that all played out. Everything we planned for about a month has played out. We got it. We have the RSI potentially bouncing from that key zone. We have price above the key level. Theoretically, this is a buy the dip zone. Theoretically, it's just about your execution of how you want to handle that. But again, I told you I'm talking to two cohorts of people. Those who want to get in at the Pico bottom, which takes on a lot of risk. And then we're talking to the second cohort, which are those people who want to get in on confirmation that the bottom is in, which means that you might be buying a little bit higher. Now, unfortunately, you need a couple more days for the second cohort to get their confirmation. What would that look like? The second cohort of people, what you need to see is ultimately this lower high structure broken, lower highs, which is going to take time. You probably need at minimum a push-up, which is probably realistically going to reject again in a lower high. But then maybe, just maybe, you'll have a higher low that forms off of some sort of bullish divergence between price, putting in the high low, and the momentum oscillators, things like RSIs, money flows, etc., which we oftentimes look at, right? That's what you're going to be looking at. And lo and behold, can you believe this? That may coincide with the prediction markets suggesting the government shutdown gets lifted mid-November. Look at my little LARP line drawings. And let's throw in a vertical line. There's no wisdom quite like this on all of the interweb, guys. Make sure you smash the like button. There it is, 15th of November. This is, again, a very, very speculative theory, but maybe, just maybe, that's what you're going to be looking at. Okay, aggressive traders out there. Yes, theoretically, you're buying right over here with your stop losses below these lows where you can take a very, very, very quick loss. The one thing that I do want to mention is you kind of have this expanding pattern over here, expanding, broadening wedge that's kind of taking place. What this simply means is it's less predictable, right? Very, very wild price action. You have your midline somewhere in the middle, which is going to be, of course, a difficult area to recover. That's at 116K region. Just keep that in the back of your mind as price action does play out. So 100%, this is a pivot level. Low, lower low, next lower low, but into key support, plus all the other factors, all the metrics that we've been studying and looking at over here, like about a handful of different things, has all come to fruition. Therefore, is the worst over for this crypto crash? Probably you have to at least vote over here. Local low, probably in, bounce, and then what? And then lower and then higher low. That's probably the next step. That's probably what's going to take place. Alrighty. So you got all of that over there. Boxes have been checked. 50 EMA on the weekly's been tagged. We're holding it. All looks good. I told you yesterday, part of your trigger plan would also be that if you can start to see a close above 103,624, that may be a good sign. And if you're lucky enough, that price action will play out like it so often does, where you capture the liquidity on the downside first, sweep the liquidity on the downside before rallying to take out the liquidity on the top side. That may just mean you will still get all-time highs. Alrighty. So that's what you're looking at. That is essentially the plan of action. Nothing has changed. I'm just giving you a bit more context, a bit more data, and hoping to help you to make your own, prediction as to where things will go. So next, the USDT dominance almost made it to 5.87%. Big move up. This can come down. It can retest back into the breakout level of the ascending triangle around this 5.1% region. We said that this would happen. We said this will create a lot of damage. I think that now is probably a good time to just make a couple of adjustments over here. And I'm going to delete that fib. The adjustment that I'd make is going to be utilizing this price level and considering that as a major significant point in the market, a major low, which I'll even add in the arrow over here just to help you understand. That is 4.96%. So what I would say now is if bulls for the confirmation traders that want that confirmation, so for your Bitcoin bulls, we gave the case, this scenario over here, what you need to see is price run up. It's probably going to reject, but create that higher low into where we speculate the government shutdown will reach its end and act as a catalyst to maybe get price going again. Well, simultaneously, you would then need to see price on the USDT dominance chart set in a bounce, lower high, and then take out that level. That's what you would need to see. Okay, so in order to have an actual bullish Q4, if the low of the month is being set in right now, that's what you need to have play out. You also need to have a failed breakout over here, so it cannot get back above this trend line. We spoke about that. So like that, rejection, this will just be another wick, and then you need a hard, sharp move towards the downside. At the end of the day, I do believe that your best bet is to remain patient, and it depends on how much capital you're talking about. It depends if you're a spot trader or leverage trader. As a leverage trader, I'd be looking for long entries right now, and we'll try to do that. We'll have a look at the low time frames for the low time frame traders that are always here day in and day out. But if you are a swing trader, which means you want to hold positions for weeks to months, okay, you want to get in on a trending move with confirmation, then I would be patient. I don't think there's a rush. I think that yes, you're going to buy higher. Let's just be clear, right? Don't come and call me an idiot in 2 weeks' time. I'm telling you now, you are going to buy at a higher price, and that is the price that you pay for the insurance or the confirmation that the low is in. Okay, cool. Do not come and tell me I'm an idiot in a few days that you're telling us to buy now after the bottom is in, because these are the types of people that come back in the chat, right? Okay, liquidity. We got liquidity over here. It is building. We've swept the low side. We spoke about that. It's not that significant on the weekly scale. This is still more or less the same. It's like 97 million. It's not that significant. The deltas in the whale room Discord over here are negative for everything, right? All the majors are negative over there. We saw enough. I believe we saw enough. I think we saw enough damage in terms of everything we're looking for. It all played out, right? That's why I say chances are that, yes, that was a major low. We saw enough. If the stock market bounces today, which is very likely that it will, then you're probably going to get a bounce as well in crypto, and ETH BTC tagged the level. Look at that perfectly. I mean, missed it by a smidge, hitting the 0.5 level. We said expect into this yellow box over here, you're going to find some sort of a high low. So naturally, this is where you'd want to see it start to rally towards the upside. And I said also be careful in the sense that, you know, your selection, your coin selection or your coin picks. We said that the best things to look at are things with insane relative strength, which is going to be, of course, Bitcoin as the standard or the bearer, the ETH BTC chart, so Ethereum, and then Zcash. Those have been the outliers. Okay, let's check the comments over here. What else have we got going on over here, guys? We'll move through the rest now in a minute. Let's just check everything out over here. Guess the Monday ranges were invalidated. Yes, regarding the Monday ranges, that's why I said yesterday you have to always use context. Context when it comes to deciding when to employ or use a particular trading strategy. And I said that this is probably not going to be one of those times that you want to execute the Monday range trading strategy. And that's predominantly based off of this chart, which is the weekly, which if we zoom in, this is a bearish order block. So on the high time frame, this is a big level. You must reclaim the breakdown level. This is your breakdown level. Your breakdown level is this week's candle. These are going to be the levels to get back above. Okay, moving on. So there's your ETH USD chart. Not looking good. ETH BTC looks decent, but the ETH USD chart, of course, would mean that people are losing money. You've deviated the range high. You've deviated the symmetrical triangle attempted breakout. These are never good signs, which also means for ETH, you really have to reclaim certain key levels. And I would say that, the level to reclaim is going to be there, 4,100. 4,100. You need to see price get above there. It came super close to key support. Super tricky environment for this trade, which is why I was scaling into the position on Pinex. So these are my updates. I have added a little bit of margin. The MicroStrategy trade down 17.3% on the grid trade. Bitcoin only down 4%, ETH down 25%, but I have a lot of capital left that I can still deploy into this trade. That's 27K, and I have like another 50K that I can put in. So I'm going to be patient. I'll maybe add or nibble in a little bit there to just reduce the drawdown on that. These are the only positions I have on the table. And just to be clear, this is a very small fraction of my overall portfolio. Okay, cool. Just so you understand where my risk management's at. The broad part of my portfolio is still cashed up, and I am in the second cohort, waiting for confirmation. I'm not here to try and buy the bottom of every single wick. I used to be that guy, but I'm not like that anymore. Okay, cool. Having a look at this. So how are you going to buy the bottom? If you are a bottom buyer, what are you going to be doing? These are significant lows. I think that you're probably best off at least waiting until the New York Open later on today. So if you're watching this later and it is the New York Open, see what the US market is doing, especially around 10 a.m. So what I mean by that, there's a strategy which people call it, it's a 10 a.m. reversal, right? So the theory is the market opens, and if the market is selling off for the first 2 hours leading into 10 a.m., round about 10 a.m., it's usually exactly on the nose, you get a reversal. So if the stock market opens towards the downside, what that may do for price in the very short term, this is for the super low time frame traders, so we'll go on like the hourly over here, or even lower, we'll go on like a 15-minute time frame. What may happen is you may see Bitcoin come down again towards those lows and even sweep some of those lows. So if the first 2 hours of the stock market is coming down, and as you approach 10 a.m., you're making lows over here, and then 10 a.m. it begins reversing, that's where you can execute your long trade. Okay, so I don't have a hard answer for you on the price level to execute a long trade for those trying to snipe the bottom right now today, because the market's not really in the right environment. It would be helpful if it was live. There's a lot of context that you need to look at, a lot of different moving parts that you need to consider. And my decision-making would be based on two things. One, the stock market and what the stock market is doing. And secondly, I'd be looking at the momentum oscillators. Where are momentum oscillators at? Like what's going on over here? Like these wicks look promising. I always use wicks to also try and determine which way price is going to go. They look promising over here. The second wick, you could have attempted to snipe a little bit of an entry, but you immediately want to eliminate your risk and move your stops to break, even if you are trading that way. On a low time frame, otherwise, if you want your confirmations, you have to wait for the market structure shift, which would be very close to reclaiming that Monday low. So that would look something on the hourly at least. This will change over time as time passes, but on the hourly at least, you would need to see something like that, big move up, and then some sort of a high low that's forming around that Monday low. And then you can say, yes, deviation and the low's in. Okay. 88 to 90K soon. 88K is an interesting target. That's a comment from Jensen over here. 88,000 is definitely an interesting level. And the reason why is because we can go into the daily for Bitcoin and we can zoom out. I like $88,000 because of this inefficiency over here. Like it did kind of get tagged, but it's only a smidge, right? So if you're looking at this as a daily fair value gap and we zoom in, there we go. You're using that wick to that wick. And like, I mean, you can recover a bit more of this inefficiency. I don't know if it was recovered enough on the second candle on the 24th of April. So if we just flip that, where's our little, there we go, to the midline and extend this towards the right-hand side, then there is some confluence with that level. Let's just quickly fix this for you guys. There we go. Okay, there we go. There is some confluence. So if things get really ugly, this is kind of like the last line in the sand. So the midpoint of that is 90,300. And of course, if you come to the low region, yes, it's about in that 88K zone. And that also just so happens to be just below the yearly open. So that's if things get really ugly. You also have this trend line, which is one of the most conservative trend lines that you can put in. And in conservative in terms of favorable towards the bullish case. And if you start to break that, everybody's going to begin to panic, right? So therefore, you can watch for deviation over there. So if you saw something like that, you know, deviation, if you deviate, reclaim back into the range over there, and then it's back on, that would have shaken a lot of people out. And we know that market makers want to destroy most of the people in the market most of the time. That would be one way to do it. One way to do it would be to get everyone long now, make them chase price, and then dump it again. Okay, so it's all short-term trading. We're all taking things one step at a time. One step at a time has been the general consensus for how to make money in this kind of market. Okay, let's see your guys' comments over here. A lot of the coins as well are doing terribly. I see in the altcoin sector retracing that mass liquidation wick. $20 to $40 billion worth of liquidations that occurred in October. I think it was the 10th of October. You retracing all the way back down to the bottom of some of those wicks, which is absolutely unreal. Pablo wants useless. Yes, we should have a look at that because this is one that I mentioned I'm taking profits on, was on useless. So let's go and actually see what useless looks like. And I think we sold pretty close to the top, if I'm not mistaken. So we'll go to useless and look at that. It looks pretty useless, not good. And I'm pretty certain we were selling somewhere at the top over here. So all the way back down to range lows. This is a very critical level. We don't have more chart history, but as you can see over here, you know, this whole area over here, and let me just change our view over here to, there we go, the yellow box. There you go, super critical, super critical. So is the worst over? Yeah, to try and answer that question, it's very tough to say right now. I would say that your answer is going to depend on the stock market open, which is why I've said that I think even if you're trying to snipe the bottom entry now, you need to wait for the New York's open on the stock market. I would say that I'm going to give it a 60% chance that the stock market will bounce today, and therefore this is going to be the lows for crypto. So it's all probabilities. We never give certainties in the market. Everything has a probability attached to it, and that's my answer. I'm giving 60% chance that this is a local low that will at least bounce, and then if it bounces into a lower high, we'll reevaluate. Then it would mean that, yes, maybe you can take out the lows and it's going to get worse. But I think, is this a bounce zone? I think there's a very good chance. Very good chance over here. Why not focus on shorting the market? Well, we are shorting the market, firstly. Secondly, you have to also understand that you will never make as much money shorting the market as you will longing the market. And the reason why is because you have to get your entries so precise. You pay funding, you take on leverage, which is inherent risk. And realistically, like if you play a 50% downside move, you would need to be so levered up, you know, for a 50% downside move to actually make serious money. So that's my answer. But we do short the market. Of course we short the market. But we're not shorting the market to try and get rich. It's kind of like, you know, that's the money for jam. We get money for houses and for retirement. We're making that on the long side, playing the cyclical fashion in crypto, like entering in with size, which I did at between my average entry was $16,200. And then you ride the whole bull market up, and then you exit and you do 6-7x on your entire net worth. That's good enough, right? That's where the life-changing wealth comes from. The Big Short. I mean, this guy, you have to go into the history of that. You have to know that he held underwater positions and almost got liquidated on his short for about 3 years before it actually played out. It's a lottery. He actually was very, very, very lucky. Very lucky. So I believe that the true way to, broaden your wealth is going to be to play the overall cycle. Get in with size in the bear markets at the lows, ride it to the top. When you know that it's a bull market, take profits aggressively into cash. You don't need to get clever and be like, oh, I'll buy 5% gold and 2% silver and hedge with Swiss francs and this and that. Just move it into USDT or dollars, the end. And then just wait for the bear market and you re-enter. You'll outperform the majority of people, I promise you. Okay, let's get into some altcoins, guys. We'll get into that. Also, by the way, if you do want to take any of these trades on Pinex, the link is in the description below. You're welcome to do that. They're giving you a $1,000 sign-up bonus. And any of the trades that we discussed as well now, if you want a non-KYC exchange, one of the best in the business, I do believe Blofin is that one. They have a $100,000 prize pool at the moment going on for competitions. And on top of that, they also have a big deposit bonus, which is valid until, when is this valid? Until the 11th of November. So you can take advantage of that. You're getting 15% sign-up deposit bonus as well on top of the prize pool. No KYC, no questions asked, right? So link is below. Let's get into some altcoins. We'll have a look at those. Let's see where the general market is, if there's any opportunities over there. So we'll go on to this chart over here. And I think we'll start off with some of the majors. Okay, so quick look firstly at Zcash. Massive candle. Huge indecision over there on Zcash. But if the stock market bounces and the rest of the market goes up, this is probably going to continue to break out. We'll see. Otherwise, this trend may be coming to its end. I'm still holding 25% of my position long over there. It's still up over 1,000%. So in my opinion, no real changes needed. The structure is still intact. For XRP, it's come pretty much all the way back down to the range lows. So quite a do or die area, very critical that it holds this range low region. It can come a little bit deeper. You've also recovered the majority of this wick over here, about 50% of it, which is also a good thing to see. But again, this is where bulls need to step in. Solana, we went short on Solana. I would still continue to hold that short, even if it does bounce over here, which I think it would. I think that you can easily bounce up into this, which is going to be an inverse daily fair value gap, right? So this is going to be massive resistance over here for Solana. Let's just quickly add in a midline for you over there, just so you can see where that point is on the chart. Okay, so that is, and I'll even price label it. So the most likely rejective area for Solana is going to be at about 175. So if you're stuck in a big Solana position and you consider taking profits, the logical place to do it would be over there, because you have a very simple invalidation. If you're wrong, all you have to do is you sell over here, and all you have to do if you're incorrect on that idea is just buy back 7 or 8% higher, which would be recovering the candle on Monday, the high. If you get back above the high of that candle, you're back in the trading range and everything is okay. Otherwise, to me, this is bearish. For Solana, I would say the most likely outcome is you're going to rally up here, you're going to reject, and then you probably will make another leg down into the pink box, just around that $100 region. Okay, SUI also hitting super key support. In order to get back into an area of safety, same thing, it must recover Monday's high. That was where the breakdown took place. This is an important zone. It's a key zone. It's a bounce zone. We need more time, more candles to present better structure. But I would say, yes, bounce from here probably, and then you'll see if it can chop around a little bit. Okay. Sonic is really bad. It's absolutely rinsed. This is one that's almost retraced the full wick that occurred on the 10th of October. But just like the rest, potential bounce zone over here at minimum, it's like 15, 16 cents over there. Say you don't want to flip this into resistance. We've spoken about that a lot. You need some recovery over here. I would rather wait for cohort 2, be safe. 1954 is the level to recover. Cardano, we spoke about that, breaking this level down, similar to Solana. You know, this can easily run up into inverse daily fair value gaps. A lot of the coins are going to have that, which means part of those candles, and let's just mark that off for you there quickly, part of these candles are going to be recovered. So Cardano can rally up to about 57 cents and then reject. AVAX also all the way at range low. I'm just going to skip it. I'm going to skip it. Casper, I'm going to skip it. Tron coming down, I'll skip it. Pump, bounce zone, right? Pumps in a bounce zone, but it needs time. You got your trend line support, you got your range low. It needs a lot of time over here, but yes, theoretically, bounce zone. Asta, Kane, bouncing nicely. Not bad, not bad. I said notably to the whale remembers, interesting, some of the altcoins are actually holding up better than Bitcoin. Not all of them, but only some of them. Hype, okay, it hit the key level. That's that super fib retracement into the 0.786 and 0.886. We said it's a must-hold level. And theoretically, you could still be playing the bump and run scenario if the market does turn, price comes down, rallies, breaks out, bump, and then you're looking for it to run and continue towards the upside. So that was a buy the dip opportunity into that zone. Very important. Okay, Apex, I still think will eventually come back over here, but theoretically, it's also in a bit of a bounce zone. If you can start to recover and get back above Monday's high, there's a chance that maybe this will recover a little bit better. Okay, BNB broke down a key level. It's going to be similar to Solana. Now you need to be super careful of the inverse fair value gap, which is coming at that breakdown point. Let's highlight that quickly. So that is at a price level of 1,037. If you see BNB beginning to reject from 1,037, expect that this could retrace all the way back down to like $700. Okay. All right, let's check the comments, guys. Just having a read through. Let's see, what have you guys got over here for me? Anything specific? Anything specific? Yes, I'm still in on the Zcash trade. 25% remains on the table. I'll let you know if I'm going to close it. Everything is still on the table there. So let's have a further look at Bitcoin. I definitely think look for a bit of a low to form over here in the low time frames. You're going to need to use, you know, things like those hourlies. It's probably going to chop and range a bit. You might be able to get an entry back towards some of these wicks. So just under 100K. And I would speculate if it did happen, it will be around that New York Open. So for the guys in Whale Room, I'll let you know if we're going to open up any trades on that. You know, just have a look around New York Open. That's probably when I'm going to make a post about it. I will update you. That would be for a low time frame trade. Okay, guys. And then also I want to make mention in terms of security, do not lose sight of security. If you've actually managed to not lose your money during this bull market, the worst thing that can happen is you'll get hacked at the end, right? If you look over here, there's been a hack and a massive drain that's going on right now. Attacker appears to be targeting lending protocols, right? Successfully exploiting several within the last 30 days. None of the teams publicly disclosing the incident. They're all keeping quiet on that, but sizable money, right? 2,450,000, 664,000, and they're absolutely just whacking those wallets. So a lot of the times, like, when the dominoes begin to fall, things get worse and worse. Liquidations happen, hacks begin to take place. You find out that big exchanges are maybe collapsing, like crazy things start to happen. Stay protected, keep some of your capital on cold storage, diversify maybe across, let's call it tier 1 exchanges, of which, you know, we have links in the description below. And then also use a VPN. VPN will at least protect your IP address, and it does pop up. I use it all the time, and oftentimes I go onto sites and it blocks it. It will pop up and it will say, we do not recommend you go on this site. It looks like there's a phishing attempt that's taking place. And this is how you can avoid getting hacked. So there is discounts on NordVPN as well. If you do want it, we arrange something for the crypto banter community, 74% off on a 2-year plan. It works out to less than $3 a month. It's nothing. Unless you only have $3 in crypto, then you may as well risk losing your $3 in crypto. But if you have more than $3 in crypto, consider using a VPN. Okay, cool. What else? What else have we got, guys? Let's check. Let's see over here. Anyone spot any amazing setups right now? Let me know. If you maybe you've seen something that I haven't, that's absolutely killer and it's primed to move right now. I'll check it out and we can have a look at that. Edward only has $3. Edward, yeah, I think save your $3, buy yourself a cappuccino and write down a vision board or some sort of goals. I think that's going to be your best use of those funds. Okay, ZK Sync. Let's go to ZK Sync. All right, ZK. Alrighty, so it's still holding up over here. You got a little bit of a range that's developed on the daily time frame. So the main level to clear now for ZK is if you can start to see this breaking above that 0.08 cents region, that's going to begin to look good. That's what you need to see. You need to get that recovery and break above. Okay, Asta and Hype, we did those. Virtuals we'll have a look at because we know that virtuals obviously pumped a lot at one point. Back down into the key level. So this is your area of interest. This is your area of interest. So keep an eye out on virtuals. So you're hitting your 50% level right now. Go on a low time frame. You can see it's attempting to find support over there. So look for a low time frame break of structure, which means higher highs and high lows on like the 15-minute time frame. If you begin to get that, then you can consider this the area of interest held, support was found, and price bounced. TD sequential indicator, it depends on what you want, you know, what time frame, what exactly is it that you want with the TD sequential. This is the TD sequential. It's not suggesting anything magical right now. Let me just clean this up a little bit, guys. Let's just clean some of this up a bit. Oh, 1 second. There we go. Okay, so it depends on the time frame. I think maybe we can have a look at it on the weekly, just out of interest. Like, let's see what is it saying on the weekly. Nothing. We don't have anything over here. Anything on? I'll look at the time frames that matter. You know, daily we know there's nothing. 12-hour, nothing really. Nothing going on over there. What about the hourly? Okay, you did get a buy. You did get a TD buy over here around candle 7-8. Putting in a little bit of a bounce over there. But remember, you want to break the structure. So I think most likely outcome is you're going to run into this bearish order block. Price is probably going to go up here on the daily. Then you're going to come down around that New York open and you're going to probably put in a high low. And then aggressive buyers step in. I might step in. Maybe I might step in over there. But I'll let you know in whale room if I do. I think that's the most likely outcome. Put in a high low, a little bit of bullish divergence over there, and then we can take it from there, which means probably a little bit of a sweep just below $100,000. So I'm saying run up here to around 104 at the most, reject from 104, come back down, sweep $100,000, fill some of this inefficiency over here at these wicks, stops below, take your long, New York open, 10 a.m., reverses, price bounces. Okay, big call. Remember to clip and circulate this if it plays out. And if it doesn't, just don't ever bring it up again. We'll talk about something else tomorrow. Yes, we got the big moon, right? Also, don't forget that. This is a special moon. This is the harvest moon, guys. It is the harvest moon. Do not ignore it. Okay, guys, I think we've talked enough rubbish for today. Thank you so much all for joining. I'll see you all on the next one. Please use all the links in the description below if you do want to support me. They all come with discounts and they benefit you. I'll see you on the next one. Have a good day and cheers for